Okay, so I'm excited to start today and talk with my friend and a customer of Acclimate, Laura Rossi with Amerant Bank. So, Laura, I'd love it if you could just introduce yourself a little bit and tell me a little bit about your background and what makes you you.
Of course. Hi, Mike. Professionally speaking, here at Amerant, I am the Senior Vice President and Head of Investor Relations and Sustainability. I am originally from Colombia, from Medellin, where I spent most of my childhood, even though I moved here to Miami in 2000, actually to Michigan and Wisconsin in the early 2000s, and then I started living here in Miami in 2001. So Miami now hits pretty close to home. Um, in other aspects of my life, I am also a wife, a mother of two teenagers, and I enjoy most being around friends and family and good food.
Good food. I'd imagine Miami's the couple times I've been there, it's well known for its food.
It is.
Do you have a favorite restaurant that you like to go to?
Many. I have many, and I am one of those people who like a lot of cuisines. It's difficult for me to choose just like a single restaurant or a single cuisine. But I just, the fact of going out and be with friends and family around good food is just something that I enjoy.
I can see that just in your face. Um, Now, you said you're the senior vice president for investor relations, but in your capacity here with Acclimate, we're talking a lot about climate. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about like how you ended up having to deal with climate for Amerant.
Of course. And so it is kind of a natural transition that it's taking place at many companies that because the head of IR is so close to the strategy of the company, but also to the messaging that the company wants to put out, as well as the market participants, that being investors, analysts, rating agencies. The sustainability has fallen in many cases in these departments. And in my case, that's how we felt here. I was the head of investor relations prior to taking on the sustainability role. And we just felt that it was the natural place for it to be because I was not only able to track and monitor our goals, our targets, the performance of those involved, but I was also able to integrate into the message that we were already driving through the IR unit, to our market participants. So that's how it came about.
Gotcha. And how long have you been wearing that sustainability hat? In addition to, there's a lot of things going on in IR.
Yeah.
So
For sustainability in a specific, Amarant started in 2021, where our CEO, Jerry Plush, joined as a program per se, because as a bank, Amarant has always been very much involved with the community and trying to make a contribution in the markets that we serve. But Jerry was the one that really brought it in as a program and as a let's say, following the environmental social governance structure that was very important at that time. And then me personally, in August, around August 2022, so a year ago, it's when we did the transition and we moved from having sustainability be a project where we were just trying to identify and do materiality assessment, what were the topics that we wanted to focus on, governance, etc. And we handled it as a project. When we migrated from project to function, and we're really trying to make this program roll and belong into each one of the functional units, that's when I came into the picture.
and how did you feel about having that role kind of placed under your responsibility?
No, I really liked it. I am someone who likes challenges. I am very driven, and it just fit naturally. So I took on it, and I saw the challenge to embed it into our day to day, and that's what I've been focusing on.
I can say from personal experience that comes through. You are a very brass tacks kind of gal. You got right down to the points right on our very first meeting, and I really appreciate that about you. Um, what were some of the challenges with that when you first started taking that on? Like, what were things that you didn't know about? What you had to learn about? Like, what? Tell me about your journey.
Okay. So there are several. In the Internally, I would say the one challenge that we had is that when we started with this topic, developing it as a project, we were working based on people's passion, right? People who naturally were climate oriented or had passion for community serving or, something of that sort. And we were working based on what we called pillar champions, right? So the program got to a point where that's very important in the beginning, in the stages where you're trying to get it going. But when you need the program to produce the results on a daily basis, it really needs to be focused on the function that where that task belongs. So one of the first challenges that I tried to tackle was to be able to identify where each one of the initiatives of the program needed to be, in what department it really belonged because of the functional purpose of that unit. So identifying that and really moving away from just wanting to contribute or asking for a favor into being more strategic into the functions that each initiative needs to be at was one of the challenges, but that was quickly identified and overcome. The other thing, just more in the, I would say, the macro environment, to me, there is still a lot of ambiguity regarding the frameworks that companies need to follow. It is almost like optional. You can choose here, you can choose that. You can report based on a framework. If you don't want, you can just report based on your own criteria. So I would really like to have more of a guideline. This is what companies need to do. And if you're, from 1 billion to 10 billion, then this is the framework that you need to follow. I just wish there was a little bit more guidance regarding frameworks. And I would also say ratings, the rating system that, or the rating agencies seem to still be very black box, especially for issuing companies. Sometimes it's difficult to really understand why of the ratings. There is not apples to apples between companies. So those are definitely challenges that I would point to.
Gotcha. Now you said that this was the sustainability journey of Amerant began in 2021 when the CEO Jerry took over.
Yes.
So maybe you could tell me just a little bit more about Amerant as a bank, and then why you've decided, like as an organization, have decided to go down this pathway of sustainability.
Of course, I would say, and this is probably something you've heard many times. Banks are really a key character in the journey of sustainability globally, because banks are the ones that enable funding to go around, and whether it's company or consumers, the fact that we can lend out to make either an environmental project or a social project take place, it's very relevant. So I would say, and that's why I mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, that it was not in 2021 that we started to contribute. As a bank, banks inherently, they contribute to the communities that they serve, and they have social impact for sure. And the fundamentals of a bank tend to be very in line with the governance aspect of ESG or sustainability. A bank has to have offer fair banking. It has to make itself available to provide financial literacy to the communities that it serves. There are just things, that the ethics and the transparency of a bank by regulation are always there, right? So sustainability and ESG, or however you want to call it, not to get involved into the three infamous letters. It's a topic that it's very natural for banks, right? However, like I was saying, when our CEO Jerry Plush joined, he has just a very, very strong mandate to do something that is very simple and it's the right thing. And that is, that's the motto that we've used. We want to do what is right, and we want to be leaders. We don't want to be followers. So, in order for us to be sustainable in our operations, we feel that we need to have a program that highlights, these areas: the environment, the social contribution, the governance of our business. And so that's our main goal. I think that he was very clear from day one, and he said, we're going to do the right thing, and what, being sustainable is going to take us to do the right thing. And if we want to attract the right talent, we need to do what is right and to be sustainable, because nowadays people want to work for companies that are on the path of contribution and making a positive impact. So
I love that. It's very clear from your all's branding on your website that you talk about how important being a community bank is. You're a large community bank. You have 26 locations, right?
yes.
So you're a significant community bank, but like you still like are very heavy into the word of community, and you talk the way you talk about it. It's clear that is a motivating force for you all.
Yeah, we have branches, 17 here in South Florida, 6 in the Houston area. We are also very focused now in growing the market in Tampa, and also continuing to grow here in South Florida. So yes, it is definitely, it is very important for us to not just have centers and do business. We want to be able to impact the communities where we are and to be able to contribute in all the senses. So definitely.
Love it. One thing that you mentioned there was you were talking about how like this is important, you thought, for like a talent attraction and retention.
Mm-hmm.
You're now a couple years into this journey. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about like early successes, things that you've learned along the way in that path.
Yeah. So in the talent retention, it's specifically, I guess it is difficult to measure right away. I think that's something that comes more in the long term of the company, but you do see a shift these days when you're doing recruiting, that especially the younger generations, they ask about these things. They ask what our values are. They ask what it's important, relevant for us in terms of contribution. What we're doing for climate. These things are things and topics that are coming up during interviews, because younger generations do want to contribute and make sure that they're giving their time and their skills and their effort to companies that are going to make an impact, and they're very aligned with that. We also have an internship program with the university, with different local universities here. And you see also from interacting with these young individuals that they want to be with a company that they feel proud about. So when you have programs like this that give priority to diversity, to inclusion, to climate resilience, to social lending, environmental lending, you see that you're able to attract the attention of those younger individuals, or just individuals in general who are aligned with these goals, and your talent pool grows. So that is why we see that doing the right thing and having an impact program is not only beneficial because it is ensuring our success, but it really becomes a highlight or almost like a benefit of Amerant that becomes part of the package of those individuals that work for us. So that internship program, it's one of the successes we've had. That's one that comes to mind.
That's awesome. How about on the other side of the equation? I mean, I'm sure it's not all sunshine and roses, right? Like you're a fairly large organization. There's a lot of different personalities and people. Have you had any internal resistance to this?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, as I shared earlier in the process, it was not easy to transition from individuals that were self-motivated and had a natural passion for these topics to getting people to do it because it's part of their job and part of their role. For people to really see how sustainability fits into their everyday roles, it's not easy. It takes motivation. It definitely takes for the message to be consistent and coming from top to bottom. And in that, I think we were very, very successful. We had a gathering at some point where the C-suite met. It was pretty much our CEO and all directs of the CEO. And each one of those individuals was given responsibilities, and they are still to date under the governance of the program. They're called initiative owners. They own them and they're responsible for driving those initiatives. So even though there was resistance among the teams and like the individual executors of those initiatives, when you have a mandate from the top, from the CEO saying that this is important, in fact, from making it one of the 7 strategic objectives of the company, our 7th objective, which you can find in many of the earnings goals or investor presentations that we put out, the number 7 says embedding ESG into our DNA. And when you have that mandate and you have the C-suite being responsible for those things, that permeates throughout the organization. So yes, that was a challenge, but one that we were able to tackle and overcome. And I think that thanks to that, the program is rolling and is moving forward. I would say one that I don't like to talk about a lot, but it's definitely in our market, and it's the fact that we are in 2 states, Florida and Texas, who have politicized this topic a lot, right? And anyone knows that both of the governments of these states have been very vocal about ESG. And we just don't feel that ESG needs to be about politics. We just feel that it should be, and that's why I try to use the word sustainability, because it's not just those 3 letters and this woke movement. It's again going back to the basics, doing the right thing, being able to do what is best for your communities and to have a positive impact.
100%. It sounds like you all have very capable leadership in order to kind of, you have a few headwinds coming from outside the organization, but it sounds like the messaging was really strong internally, and that helped to bring a lot of buy-in to it.
Yeah.
How about the other direction? Maybe how have your primary roles in investor relations?
Yes.
How have investors responded to this direction?
That's a good question. And so you see a mix, honestly. You see that there are investors that are not yet paying that much attention. They obviously say it's good that you do this because there is nothing wrong with wanting to make an impact and a contribution, but they don't necessarily pay attention to it. However, there are some, and I would say the larger investors, I don't want to name anyone in specific, but the larger investors, institutional investors, I would say those are taking this very seriously, and they have committees around this and whole units dedicated to making sure that the companies that they're investing in are really doing what they're expected to do. And they, again, going back to the frameworks and the ratings and all of that, it is not an easy road to walk on, because everyone looks at their own thing. Everyone is using different frameworks. Everyone is using different guidelines to measure. But at the end, at least you have teams being dedicated to this. I have to say that one of the most technical meetings that we've had was, or technical questions that we had during a meeting with an investor were about sustainability. And, they were very pleased that we were able to answer them and give them straight answers, because they really wanted to see that we had a program that was not just greenwashing, that it was something serious, that we were committed, that there was a rationale behind the changes that we were writing on our report about. And so yes, you do see that the larger investors are taking this seriously and do want to have companies respond. There is no regulation yet. That also makes it a little difficult because since there is nothing that you have to comply or that you have to report on, everyone gives different information. So it is not an easy task for these investors to evaluate companies. But I'm hoping sometime soon something more specific comes to us and we can provide better data and play more on a level field.
It sounds like it sounds very. One of the things that we work on here at Acclimate is about like trying to make the climate a less confusing topic. But even still, like there's definitely confusion that's going to happen outside of like the services that like we provide you at Acclimate. It sounds like there's a lot of challenges. Like this isn't necessarily your background either. Like you're having to learn this as you go. You're a professional. You're going to do a good job because that's who you are as a professional. But maybe like you could tell me a little bit more about like your own motivations, your own ethics, like why you feel compelled to like to do the job that you're doing on this.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna move into that, but I wanted to say something because before when you asked about the challenges, I do have to agree with what you just said. One of the challenges that when I took on the program, I noticed was the fact that we had some goals related to net zero, to reducing emissions. However, we are a bank, not necessarily emission accountants, right? And so that is something that was a challenge for us because we were trying to look for all sorts of spreadsheets and calculations in order to really even understand where our emissions were. And I do want to, call Acclimate to the table because it was extremely, extremely easy to work with you guys and to have you be an ally. And you came as a concierge service. You helped us pretty much take on all the data that we needed to provide and create, a dashboard that shows us where we are, and even move over to do the offsets and to get to those goals. And even like I remember that from our conversations, I was able to reevaluate the way those goals were written so that they made they made more sense. So that is definitely a challenge that most companies who are not in the climate sector, I bet they're facing. And it is through companies like Acclimate that they can tackle that challenge, and that climate can become a very tangible goal of theirs. They can easily visualize where they are at and then place targets or goals to offset whatever their desire may be. So, that I just wanted to mention it because that's
really kind of you, Laura. And I have to say that I can speak for the whole team. We've learned a lot from working with you as well. And so I appreciate the compliment, but the feeling's very mutual here. We've really enjoyed the relationship, and I'm pleased to know you as a person too.
Thank you.
So to that end, tell me more about you.
Yeah, I'll move over to the question that you asked about, the ethics. And for me, it's also been a very natural thing to do. I have to say, anyone who knows me knows that I am someone who is very structured in my ways and in my work. I am a person of method. I also have a very strong mandate. This is at the core of my personality, of doing what is expected of me and really doing the right thing and delivering on my word. So when I was, thinking about this question, I was just thinking that for me, just more than doing your job and doing it well, I cannot be working with a program that is not going anywhere, right? So I needed to feel right away when I joined that this was something that I could take ownership of, and that I had a way to monitor and to feel that it was consistent, that we were not putting some targets and goals out there just to have, a goal, but that everything was aligned, right? That we had, if you see the way we're structured, we have 5 pillars, and then those 5 pillars are being worked on by trying to reach 13 metrics. And those 13 metrics have 26 initiatives that are driving those metrics. And for those, we've made commitments. So, like in my personal ethics, I could not be the head of sustainability if I was heading a program that was not going anywhere, right? I just need to feel that we are being true to ourselves, that we're putting commitments out there that we mean to be able to reach. And if there is something in the way, like I'm very pro adjusting if needed, right? Just with transparency and being able to explain why we decided to shift here or there. But I just, it is a mandate of mine to be able to have things working, that the work is going towards a goal, that it's consistent with what we say. It's just, for me, the sustainability program was a lot about, putting my seed into it and making sure that it was moving in the right direction.
Why do you think you're like that? Like, what about your background causes you to be like, I can't do this halfway. I've got to throw my heart and soul into this.
I think a lot about that because I would like to pass that on to my kids. It is the one trait that I say, that and my discipline and organization skills is definitely something that have been a gift to me, and I work at keeping them very, I work on it very hard. But I would say it's definitely gotta be a combination of personality, because you have to have the personality. It helps to be someone who likes method, who is organized by nature. Just, there's just some traits of the personality that help, right? But I would have to go back to my parents and my school. I mean, the way that I was raised, my dad and my mom, they're both very disciplined individuals. My dad is a cardiologist, and academics and ethics and discipline and organization were always at the core of our family. And my mom, even though she's she has a more easygoing personality, she's extremely driven and organized as well in her own way, but extremely driven. And so I think that I just had that around me. And then I went to a school, same school since I was in kinder up to high school. And this school was also an environment where discipline was promoted and encouraged and taught. So I would say that's where this comes from.
I got a little emotional when you started talking about your kids. I started thinking about my own as well, and about how that's something I would like to pass on to them as well. Is about how discipline and service to others is important, so I think we share that value there. Maybe we could talk a little bit more about climate specifically, and about definitely how it relates to your own life and Amerant, but also just more broadly, what do you find exciting about working in the climate space?
This may sound funny, but I think the one part that I find exciting about it is that it's a topic that either we do something about it or the implications are going to be extremely chaotic. So for me, what is exciting is being able to contribute, right? To be part of the process, to make it to wherever we need to to make it so that we find a solution, right? I think that this is no longer a choice. Climate, it's something that requires action. And even though I would not consider myself a climate geek, or you would not, like any of my friends or people who know me closely, they would not necessarily say that I am the one that it's out in the streets, with holding banners or anything about climate change. I just feel that what is exciting about this stage or this time that we're living is the fact that it's here and now that we need to find the solution and that we need to start acting. This morning I was reading something about how in order for us to reach the global net zero goals by 2050, there is really, really a hard line on 2030, that if by 2030 we're not able to make certain changes, there is no way we're reaching the goals of temperature rising by 2050. And so this is no longer like a future decision or a future action for future generations. It has to happen now, and it's in our hands. So that is the one thing that I find exciting, being able to be part of that group that it's driving the change.
Yeah, we all have our part to do. We don't have to barricade the streets, but it is very much it's something that we all need to contribute to. So I love that you came to that.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like there's some worry there. Like our backs are against a metaphorical wall here. Tell me about your feelings about that side of the equation.
Yeah, and so I would say that side of the equation is just the opposite, that just as we are the ones that need to contribute, my fear is that it may already be too late, right? It is without being a climate geek, just as a normal person, as a resident of this world, it really scares me that it may be too late, or that we may not be able to turn this Titanic ship around. I would say that's it, that the damage has already been too great.
Have you started working in climate? How have your feelings evolved? Have you become more anxious and more nervous, more hopeful, a little bit of both? Like, what's your climate journey been like?
To be honest, right now I'm still more of on a standby, trying to watch where this is going because of what I mentioned before around the politics of it. I see that there are these great initiatives and these great conferences and spaces of global leaders taking place, but then you don't necessarily see that the result or the output of those meetings is straightforward and factual and enforceable, at least not enough. It's like there is a lot of discussion, but there is still need to be more of a requirement or call to action. So I wouldn't say it has evolved that much. It's also been relatively short, the period that I've been working closely together with, this program. But I really hope that it becomes more positive. I think, and you have not asked me about this, but I would bring it out now. Regulation, the fact that regulators are talking about this in a way gives me peace. I know that for many people it's a burden, but I rather am the type of person that I rather have the law written and clear than to be guessing, how to do things and how to go about climate. So if the regulators get to make a clear guideline and enforce it, I just think companies are going to have an easier path forward as to what they need to do. So hopefully that puts me on a more positive place where you ask the question next.
Yeah, I think that's a point that is I didn't fully appreciate as much, and I think a lot of people don't as well, which is that the idea of that regulation can sometimes be a burden, but a lot of times it's also brings clarity and relief.
Yeah, I feel that way.
And that's go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
I feel that way.
I don't think that's I don't think that's a common feeling about people, but when there's so much, back to your point there is that like people have politicized ESG as a concept, but like the reason that your organization and others like yours have gone into this is it's about like risk control and it's about dealing with the community, and those things are money winners for you. They're positives. But you have so many different like reporting standards for people that are trying to evaluate these risks and trying to see how you are as a community member from an investment side, from working as an employee side. That all that confusion, it must bring a lot of stress to you.
Yeah, it does. I agree 100%.
In a larger sense, so investor relations, all of it. If you had 10 times the budget for your programs and your work areas, like what would you spend it on?
I think that I would spend it within my span of control, the sustainability especially. I would spend it in education because and when I say education about all sorts of topics that are relevant for a company to be sustainable, for our for the banking industry to be sustainable. I think I would fund programs to educate our communities, education regarding climate, education regarding financial planning. I just think that without education, you can give people many, many things, but they won't last. For sustainability to take place, people have to be educated. So I think that that's what I would do. Just have a very strong program to educate our communities in the different topics that are going to make these things sustainable in the future.
That really highlights to me earlier when you were talking, the thought occurred to me about like how important community banks are in the relationship between institutional capital and like the local community. And to me, that like just speaks again to like the role that community banks really play in that ecosystem. So that drove the point home for me. Thank you. What's a status quo that you reject?
So this was a question that made me think quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I would say that I reject a status quo in its nature, by itself.
The very concept of a status
Yes.
quo. Okay.
Yes. I am someone who needs to feel that I'm evolving, that work is being done, that goals are being reached, that a project commences and finishes. I don't like procrastination. So if there is one thing that I reject with all of my heart, and I have a very hard time doing, is procrastinating. So.
Okay, I love it. The challenge, the existence of the very question itself, which I love. That's really fun. Well, you're a pretty driven gal. How do you maintain any semblance of a work-life balance with that?
Okay, I have to say it's very difficult. It is very difficult. And I would think back to pre-pandemic times. And I do remember feeling that there wasn't enough time to do it all, at least not to do it like I wanted to do it, right? I wanted to excel as a mom. I wanted to excel as a wife. I wanted to excel at work. I wanted to excel as a friend, right? And it almost felt like a rat race because there was just not enough time and there was not enough you. But I would have to say that this is the one thing that I can rescue from the pandemic to be a net positive. I think that the fact that the world realized that remote work could be done and it could work and people could be efficient. And I definitely say it's not for everyone, not every personality and not every type of job. But if you, like in my case, my role and the way that I work and my personality really, I work well in that environment. Again, because of what we discussed, I am very organized, very self-driven, and I don't really need, much outside span of control to get things done. So I think that has helped me a lot to reach some balance. I feel that by being able to schedule myself and visualize my week and be at the place that is most convenient, so that I give priority to this thing that it's not unlimited, which is time. And so, the days that I need to be closer to either home or a school because I have things in that area, I stay and work remote. I am super efficient in my work, but I also use the time better, not spending in commuting or trying to reach, different places around town. And then the days that I need to be here in the office because I have in-person meetings, because I need to interact, because I need that personal touch and feedback, then I am here. So I would definitely link my balance, work and life balance today to the fact that we're able to do remote work and to be more flexible with our locations.
Got it. Yeah, the challenges of being a working parent are significant, and
Yes.
it sounds like you carry it off well. It's not something I always do particularly well, so I'm glad
I
you're
try
able to
to.
achieve some balance there.
Yes.
Well, just to wrap up here then, so this has been an interview with Laura Rossi, the Senior Vice President for Investor Relations and wearing also the hat of sustainability for Amerant Bank, the leading community bank for South Florida and the Houston area. I would direct you all to their website if you'd like to learn more. And if you're looking for a bank, strongly consider them. Laura, I've really enjoyed speaking with you. I really enjoy knowing you, and I really enjoy working with Amerant. So thank you for taking the time today.
No, you're very welcome. We enjoy talking to you always. We always learn something from your experience and your knowledge in this area. And we're very happy to work with Acclimate as a partner. So thank you so much.